Welcome back to RP1 Release. And between the episodes, I went and reinstalled, just to make sure the instructions I'm about to give you actually work. So one of the commenters last episode did say, give me, well, there's actually instructions on the GitHub. So I'm going to post a link down in the description below if you want to follow along. Follow those instructions, I followed along with them. They work just fine. Just, work your way through them. There's only about 5-6 steps, but the initial step is CCAN, of course, and there's a few corrections after that. But we're now in game, and we're back at our wonderful rocket that we built last episode. And first of all, I just want to amend this, really, to make a few changes. One, I'm going to take this sort of oversized launch assembly off. And a commenter did say down here there is this tiny little pole. Well, it's still large, but you can attach it to the bottom of your rockets, like that. And it's more reasonable for a sounding rocket. It's perhaps a little bit tall off the ground. We can just move that down a little bit, but other than that, that looks a lot more reasonable than just giant clamps. A couple of other things I thought I want to try. Excuse me, I need to cough. So I'm going to just take this off for a second because there is a standard Aerobee tank, and I thought we'd rebuild this with that and see how well it performs versus the procedural tank. So up here you see Aerobee FT LF3, and you'll see it's longer. And we also, of course, have the nose cone. So we may as well just see how well the official versions, where are they? It's all going to be in aerodynamics, isn't it? It's going to be aerodynamics somewhere. I would have thought. Where's the nose cone gone? Almost sure there is one. Ah, there it is. Yeah. So we have that nose cone as well. So we can take both of these off, take rid of the procedural ones, and we'll see how well the original ones actually work by comparison. So there you go. And there's a complete stack. Okay, and we'll save this as an Aerobee 2 or something like that. I'll just save that for a second. And then we need to put some, do we need to put fuel in it? Yes, 0.7 seconds. We definitely need to put fuel in it. So aniline and furfural alcohol, is it furfural alcohol? Remove tanks. Furfural and IR. Actually, I don't know what that is. But anyway, that will do fine. And there we go. So we can now burn for 1 minute 30 seconds. Unfortunately, this engine is still only rated for, it's a WAC Corporal, it's only rated for 50 seconds. So it will fail at some point after 50 seconds, but we don't care. So we're just going to make sure everything is in the right staging. And yep, always check your staging. And that is absolutely correct. It doesn't have any aerodynamic fins on yet, so why don't we just do that, and I will just put 3 on. And I'll also put the aerodynamic fins on the bottom as well. This is for the booster. Come on, go away. Annoying. Let's just move you out of the way. There you go. It was already detached. Will you let me select you? Clearly you won't. 1 second. There we go, and we're going to simulate this because the build cost is 245 and the simulation cost is 347, but more importantly, I don't waste time by doing a simulation. I have to wait for Kerbal construction time otherwise. So let's get this onto the launch pad. And also, one of the instructions on the instructions that are below the video is that you can install other mods as well. So there are a few other ones that it recommends. One of them which is X Science, and then there is also Test Flight. And Test Flight, I'm not sure it actually is running at the moment. We shouldn't run in a simulation anyway, but I'm not sure if it's actually on the install list. I can never remember what the icon looks like, so I'll need to double check that. Is that Test Flight? No, that's Engine Groups. Anyway, I'll look into Test Flight later. For now, it just means that I have the ability to trigger various science things without having to have all the dialog boxes open and across the screen. Doesn't much matter for this one because, of course, we're just doing a simulation. And just note that these are angled slightly, but these are not at the bottom. And that's the only real difference. I just replaced them all back on and everything should work. So let's see how high this goes. We have no SAS and no control once it goes. So go. Yep. It got kicked by that launch thing, so I may have to go back to those clamps. Not that I mind too much, but yeah, I kind of would prefer if it didn't get kicked, so we're going to have to figure out how to actually deal with that. I think it's just going to be launch clamps, unfortunately. But we're not been stabilized, which means we are not going to be going straight up. We can see we're already starting to curl over, and that slight tilt here is not really helping. It's not really turning this enough. So if I wanted to fly this again, I'm going to want to actually do that properly. But let's see how high we get, I suppose, with this sort of tilted trajectory. And yeah, my X-Science is saying we can do lots of stuff because we're now over the forest. So yeah, there is a certain advantage in tilting them in different directions, and you get different biomes. I don't have RSSVE, the visual enhancements mod on yet, or Scatterer, but I am planning to actually add those. Makes everything look a lot nicer, but you know, they are sometimes a little bit difficult to figure out and do. But let's take a look at the map view. Launching off Florida and down, heading down to the south. That's 26, 27. If we could get this so that it goes straight up, we could probably do that rocket contract. The rocket contract is getting to 45, I think. And even this, when it goes wrong, is pretty okay. Yeah, we're going to get to 33. Well, it's going to slow down once we run out of fuel. And then we've also been quite lucky in that this hasn't burned out until now. So now that's going to be the peak. And I got to 36, but it was heavily inclined when doing so. So this is more like trying to head in towards orbit when we know we're not going to be doing that. So end simulation, and what I'm going to do is just tweak a couple of things, and we'll try another simulation off camera, see if I can get that running correctly, and if I can, then we're going to go to a live one, trying to go for that sound rocket mission. And I'm not going to show the full simulation, but this is just the replacement clamps I'm just using for the moment. And let's see if this kicks it off straight away. I'm not inclining the rocket itself because I'll be using range safety in a real, and this is a simulation, but in a real one I'll be using range safety, which blows up the rocket. So off we go. Let's see whether this works. Yep, and that's been stabilized us almost straight up. So we'll see how well it actually does in real. Yeah, so I'm going to spoil this by cutting towards a real one. So here's the mission I was talking about, sounding rocket low and altitude above 45,000. We don't have to carry a payload, which means what the rocket you just saw didn't have that science module on it. So that gives it about 100 more delta V. Lets us get up a little bit higher, just in case. And even that simulation I just tried did still have the rocket sort of precessing around vertical, so it never really got to be perfectly straight. That's fine. I'm not too concerned about it. We don't really have control to keep it straight or anything like that. It's just an early signing rocket mission. So we can then go and build it. So if we just go into our VAB and add it to the build queue, I may well even build 2 of them just in case. We can always cancel the second one before it actually completes, save ourselves the money. But yeah, so there's the final figures. So it's pretty much 2,500 delta V. Orbit, by the way, when you're talking about realism overhaul, is way north of that. You sort of in regular Kerbal, you're used to getting to orbit with like 4,000 to 6,000 kind of thing. You need to be more towards 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 and that sort of thing. And I do actually have the delta V map somewhere. If I can remember, I will also put that in the description of how to get to orbit, how much delta V you need. Certainly a lot more than this, so we need to get started. So let's just launch one, and then we can just exit, and we can launch 2 from in there if you want. But just to show you, if you look on the Kerbal construction time, I'll up here on the top right once it appears, it should pop up, or I can just click on this, and then we can just go to here and then say we want to duplicate this. So we'll then build 2. And this is 31 days, and our mission gives us like 90 days. So worst case, we have 2 attempts at it. Although we might need to modify the second one if the first one doesn't go too well. But let's just warp to complete. Okay, and we'll warp to complete on the next one as well. It's 31 days, so the sun's going to go up and down quite quickly when I do this. And I'll see you on the launch pad. And here we are. So we should just be able to go. Whoops, once everything actually loads, we should be able to go. And there we go. It's locked and we're starting to spin. Now, from the simulation, I lowered the rotation a little bit, but even so, it's already starting to spin. You'll see as we get faster, at a certain point, that's going to start processing around this center. Or at least it will, if it's anything like this, the simulation. We'll see how well this goes. So it's rotating quite heavily, of course, and we should be going. So let's take a look at how our APO is going. 12. Looking good so far, as long as nothing fails on us. And there it goes. It's going to start to wobble like that. And you'll see it's processing around. Sounding rocket low, however, all we need to do is get to above 45 kilometers and we'll be safe for the mission. But we are going to get other things as well, which will also give us money if I remember rightly. So 20 kilometers, yeah. 30 kilometers, those were from our simulation, so I don't think they actually count. But we'll see what it counts on this. Yeah, we're getting some of those records repeated now, so 600 meters per second. So we're getting multiple thousands for those. And it looks like, yeah, our engine is basically failing. There it goes. Okay, so are we going to complete it? Yes, we are. Perfectly well. We're going up to 60, in fact. That may actually come down a little bit. Yeah, so we're not going to hit 60 exactly. That's such a shame. But we do want to wait until we get to the highest amount possible. And see if we get any more altitude records. But otherwise, that is our mission done. So we did get above 45,000. There it is, sounding rocket low. And we can use that. Ooh, and some telemetry analysis. So we'll send 0.9 science. It's terrible. But it will make 1 science. You know, it will make 1.3 science total. So we can use that to add another piece of R&D to our queue. So we have an extra 6,000 or so. And we can now invest in some more research and development. And I think we had a choice of like this one, the solid rocket engines, or... that's a solid rocket booster. Do I want that? Or do I want the post-war avionics? What does that lead to? Science. It leads to science. Yeah, I want the boosters. I want to be able to fly. Oh, not enough science? Is that 2? You're 1. Oh, we're taking you then. Okay, fair enough. And that will add it to our queue. So we're fine there. And we'll also then be able to improve things a little bit more. How are we actually doing with our queue? Tech. So we're about halfway through that post-war rocketry testing, okay? But we do have another rocket that we can actually build to try and do some contracts, or we get this same mission again. You do get these missions a few times. I think you get up to 3 times, and that lets you basically build up a little bit of money while you're actually trying different rocket designs. Good thing to start. Of course, the next really big one is to get above 100 kilometers. That's a Karman line, and that will give us lots of money. But before we're going to get there, we're going to have a look at the A4. So this is the A4. It's quite large by comparison to our previous rocket. Our previous rocket is around about there. On the top of it's around about there. So yeah, it is larger. It doesn't, however, have a huge amount more delta V than our earlier rocket. It has maybe another 200 or so. So we should be able to get beyond 60 kilometers with this. It is, however, 600. So it's not quite double, but it's close to double the cost. One important thing I did forget to mention, let me just actually load our Aerobee 90 spin, which is Aerobee 290 spin, is I did mention in the previous episode about research and development about one of the engine costs being huge. If I remember rightly, the reason for that, and I did forget it in the last episode, is that you meant to buy the engine upgrades through here, not necessarily through the tech tree, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong. We'll see when our tech tree unlocks. So it's much, much cheaper when you actually get them in here, but I could be wrong. I'll come back onto you. I'll come back and explain if that's not the case. Anyway, back to the A4. So the A4, in fact, no, hang on. Is that even larger? Yeah, it's cheaper. Oh, no, hang on. Yeah, because we were using procedural tanks. The disadvantage with using procedural tanks versus the ones that are built for the rocket is that they're more expensive. Now, if you're going to use them a lot, procedural tanks, you can tool them, and all that means is you're basically preparing things like jigs and fixtures and other tools that will make it cheaper to build that tank over and over. However, if you change anything about that tank, your tooling isn't going to apply anymore and the costs will shoot back up. So these early rockets, unless you know you're going to be using a launch vehicle again and again and again, don't bother tooling. However, if you want to tool, they are the right-click options on the tank. So if you just right-click these, if this was a procedural tank, there'd be a tool tank option, and then you can look into doing that. However, you do probably want to look at R&Ding things depending on what engine it is. In this case, we don't have the option to. Yep, we're already there for as far as the A4 is concerned. But otherwise, in a new engine, you do want to R&D it. Otherwise, you get lots of failures. You're going to get failures anyway, but yeah. Anyway, let's fly this and let's see if this has any control. We'll just do a simulation on it. and then we'll see whether it actually would be useful to use as part of our Saturn rocket missions. And here it is. It's a little bit bigger, so we're going to see, do we have any control? Well, we've got SAS, so that's interesting. That was a good sign. Let's see if this thing will actually fly without just being heading off in direction randomly. So there goes the engine. You'll see it's coming up. And now we can release, and off it goes. So we have the ability to steer this thing. That gives us a good opportunity to be able to basically send this wherever we want. And I'm just going to tip it over very, very slightly. It's not terribly stable. It does sway a little bit, but it's more importantly not going to come straight back down onto our launch pad. So we're already through nearly half the fuel. So this thing it does actually go quite fast, quite quickly, as you can see by the aerodynamic effects. And we're already beyond 20 kilometers as far as its apoapsis is concerned. But let's see how far it goes. Okay, we went through supersonic and everything heated up red, but it actually is just fine. And if we have a look here, wow. Yep. This thing can get up to 189 kilometers. So we should be able to take the Karman line mission. Okay, seems like a good thing to go for. So let's go back to the center. Let's put one of these rockets on build and let's cancel that other Aerobee. We'll then go and grab the... Well, in fact, no, we need to grab the mission first, I think. You need to... Well, it may work if you build the rocket before it's complete, but just to be careful about this, to make sure that we can actually do this, let's go and grab our missions. So mission control, send a rocket low, yeah, we'll take that one. And the Karman line, well, we'll take that one as well. Yeah. So we've got up to 35 grand because of the advance. Let's leave the facility and let's just actually grab... Can I not grab one of my existing rockets from here and build it? It'd be nice if I could. Okay, never mind. So I'm going to just cancel that in a second. And then we're going to build this A4. And yes, we can actually put some science on this. So I thought we'd just unlock the basic kind of science that you get in regular KSP. There isn't any kind of suitable container to actually put these on. So for the moment, yeah, well, there's an early film camera, I suppose. We can unlock all these because they're all $1 or the equivalent. So how big are these? I'm getting the feeling that biological sample capsule is quite small. So let's just take a look. Yeah, that's tiny and there's nowhere to put it. Let's just have a look. That is non-RP0. We're not touching those. So let's just actually put some science on this thing and we'll just put these. Wow. Wow, they're tiny. Okay. We'll just put them on either side here. Roughly in the same place. Biological samples would be nice. They're 250 each. How big are they though? Yeah, I suppose. We should be able to get... How heavy are they? They're not very heavy at all. In fact, they're like 15 kilos. So why don't we just put a couple on fairly far down and let's hope that that actually works. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to transmit them all back, but we'll see. So I'm going to say that this is 1,000 now instead of 600 or whatever it was. So I'm just going to save this and add it to the build list, I think. Yep. I'll see you on the launch pad. And in fact, I'm not going to scrap the other Aerobee, mainly because I forgot to look at that mission before I accepted it. The Saturn rocket's low only has 90 days. And it's going to take 181 days until we get some money invested into our various upgrades. Yeah, we need... How many... Do I have any points? I have 4 points available. Can I actually increase the speed enough for this to actually matter? It's not the R&D, it's all the VAB. So we can just basically pour all of our points into the VAB. Does that improve things significantly? No, I still need 109 days. So I'm going to basically fly this one off camera, this additional 90 spin, just to get that other mission complete. The Saturn rocket's low, that is. And then we'll be ready for the A4 for the full Karman line mission. And that research and development project is now complete. We're still partway through building the first A4, but yeah, we have 76 days to the next one, which means we can go and have a look in our R&D and decide what we actually want to go for. So here we have only a few things. These are the really expensive things I was talking about. Yeah, 100 and how much were they? 188,000. Wow. Yeah, that's no. just know these are 3 and 5,000, so they're a lot more comfortable. Although they're the same thing, I think. Same stats, so why would we ever go for the 5,000 ones? Anyway, these don't have a purchase cost underneath them here, so purchase one part for 5,000 seems to be what this is all about. So we're not going to worry about that, but we are going to go back into our vehicle assembly building and take a look back at our Aerobee now, because we may be able to refit it with a different engine, making it more performant and not necessarily cheaper, but it may be able to go further and maybe even sort of be more competitive with the A4. We'll see. Let's bring it up. So here we are with our E02, the 90 spin version, and let's just take off the decoupler and let's take a look at this. So engine in here now. Yep. So I can now purchase the XASR1 for 1,000 funds, and we'll take that. We don't have the tech for the AJ1027 yet, but we do have this upgrade. So with just that alone, let's actually, well, we need to compare this while I've got this off, don't we? So let's just change the engine for a second. Whack Corporal. So 2274, 112 at what? Is this a different fuel now? Remove all tanks. Add tanks back in. Yeah, 2456. That's better. Okay, burn time of 55 seconds with this particular tank. And if we look at the engine itself, here it is. So if we have a look at this engine, hopefully it will stay static. There we go. Down here we have the configurations, and we've got test flight installed, so it'll say reliability and other kinds of stats. But burn time is, which one are we actually looking for? So we're not going to have the AJ10 yet. We've got the Whack Corporal, which is here. So if we have a look at the rated burn time, 50 seconds. So anytime after that, well, there's all kinds of things. So burn through penalty is 100 at 130 seconds. So it's not going to last very long anyway. However, the XASR can last 65 seconds. That's its rated burn time. So if we wanted to get this even further, what we could probably do is replace now this tank with that earlier kind of procedural tank if we wanted to. And we could then up it until the burn time was 65 seconds. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to leave this as is. And I will just change this title a little bit just to XASR. Okay. And then we'll probably use that instead of this for future missions that we need, if we need to use this really tiny thing. Let's just get everything correct. What do I want for this? I want the booster to fire and this to fire, and then that's it. Oh, I've done it wrong. Rearrange. Yep, there we go. Okay, we can save that, exit, and back to that A4. And even before that A4 was built, our second R&D unlocked, and that's these parts. So we have a boat tail adapter, the service module tank, which would be good if we need payloads. We don't quite need them yet, but that's 10 grand. It's quite expensive until we get maybe some more incoming money. And then we have different standard fuel tank sizes. So these are basically a lot cheaper to use, at least to use without unlocking, and different other fuel tanks and things we can basically attach to the sides. So hydraulic manifolds and stuff like that. I sort of want all those apart from, well, we'll get all the cheap ones, you know. So I don't need the boat tail adapter just yet. Yeah, just don't need that. So at all. So I'm just going to purchase all of these, and then we'll go about using them until we actually need to switch over to procedural tanks. We need a bit more technology really before we start using procedural tanks, I think. It's very often in regular curl for you not to use procedural tanks at all. Well, not so much in realism overhaul or realistic progression 1. You need to use custom launch vehicles to get a lot of stuff done. Not at the start, so it's easy enough to start, but later on, yeah, you are going to want to do that. So just bear that in mind. You are going to be designing your own launch vehicles. Yep, let's just go to VAB, and it's 2 days, so that won't take very long at all. And I'll see you on the launch pad. And here we go. So we have everything ready, and we can go. So off goes the engine, wait for it to heat up a little bit, and off we go. And of course, we should need to basically access various different things, one of which is range safety when we come back down. So I'm just going to tip ourselves over just a tad, just to make sure we don't come back down on ourselves. But we are going to be using range safety anyway, and we shouldn't need to use these modules because we should get it through science here now, I hope, once we get to the point where we can actually use the science. So up we go, and this is going to heat up quite quickly now. We're about to go supersonic, and then it's going to start going red, etc. And we'll see if this goes as per the simulation. Of course, what I don't see is test flight on this one. I don't think the A4 is actually rigged up for test flight. Or maybe it is. No, it is. It's fine. Although the flight hood I can't see. Flight hood? Oh, there it is. Okay. For some reason it isn't persistent. If we get a failure, we'll see it up here, yellow or red, and yeah, it'll be quite obvious because the engine will shut down, or indeed not be very good. So up we're gonna go, and we're gonna go way past the Karman line, I hope. Yep, so 200 kilometers or thereabouts, and we should be able to take some various different science. So here we go, flying high, and we've got a biological sample, and we have to transmit it. Remember, we have no parachutes or for this thing, so yes, we have to transmit. Nothing we can do. However, that is a few science, and then we've got to wait for all this to actually finish, and you'll see these disappear again. It's just because it resets things. We've got a couple of experiments on board, and that's all we can do. We can, however, see whether we get a different set of science once we pass 100. So there's our mission, and we should get quite a large reward for that. So Karman line, yep, we've crossed it, and uncrewed altitude records and speed records, and lots of stuff. How much money have we got? 68,000. We were on like 35, were we, or something like that? 40, something like that. So yes, lots and lots of nice stuff. And let's let it get a little bit higher. And do we get any science? Yes, we do. So let's just grab all of those, telemetry and everything else. And yes, we're going to transmit. Are we going to run out of power though? How much power does this thing have? It's built in, so there's not much I could actually do until we unlock a battery. It's uploading everything it can. We should be okay. Are you now done? You look to be done. It is still draining power, however. Okay. And we're not going to hit 200, so I'm just going to range safety it there. Goodbye. And it's obviously very, very safe in little pieces, unless you're in orbit. That's a different subject entirely. Back to the Space Center. And that gives us a luxury, relative luxury of 13 science. So we should be able to unlock a few more nodes here now, and that should be a bit more comfortable. So one, I want that solid rocket research. That should be straightforward. Early rocketry we definitely want as well. There's just no two ways about that. The better rockets we have, the better it is. You could go for planes, supersonic planes. I'm somewhat tempted in that lets us get manned stuff started early. And unless there's any other way to get a manned capsule, unless we already have one. We have to go and check that in a second. Avionics prototypes. Yeah, the Sputnik. Kind of cool. Able Avionics, yes, the batteries, and our own Sputnik PS1, if you like, you can assemble your own. Early science, I actually want. Yes, I do want science that just lets us get further down into these chains. Let me just have a look where the... in fact, let's just have a look in the VAB. Do we have any manned capsule at all to start with? No. Don't do it. Okay, that's so tempting, but parachutes, do we have anything for those? Well, we do. There's an Aerobee parachute pack. Interesting. Okay. So we could get those. Yeah, I'm not sure that's a good idea. We don't have a pod. However, we could go manned with that, I suppose. I'm not going to worry about it just now, but I will leave it up to you guys. What do you think about parachutes? Should we try and equip some kind of parachute? Because we have radial parachutes here that we can go for, and we could put them on the side if we had some kind of decoupler. Oh, that's just going to freeze my game for a second. Yeah, so we could put them on the side like this. Of course, the other downside with this, and unfortunately this is just the way the A4 is rigged up, you can't do this, unfortunately. I did just check, that's why there's a quick break in the recording, mainly because this contains one of the fuels, and the other fuel is in the other side. So if we just try and snap this back down again, come on, there. It won't snap very easily. Come on. It just does not want to snap. Anyway, I'll restore it from the save file. But yeah, the tank is in that one, and the oxygen is in the lower tank, so we can't actually just take this and apply a new nose cone. So yeah, we will need some kind of R&D for that. No, I'm not going to save that. And that leaves it up to you guys. So if you've played this through, feel free to make suggestions on which nodes we're going to go for. I have a few spare sites I want to say. Do we? Wait for that to actually load. I have 6.3 sites spare, and we have a few nodes we could go for. Mainly, I'm always, tempted to go for the rockets. Mainly that we get to AJ-10s and RD-103s and different propellant tanks. So I'm always in favour of those. Or indeed, we could try. Well, supersonic's cheap anyway, so let's just actually purchase that. The actual planes aren't, but the node is, and then that leaves us 5.3, and that leaves us avionics, early material science, and rockets. I'll leave it up to you guys. Comment it down below, and I'll take that one, and we'll see where we get to on it. We may have to rearrange the order of these things, of course, if we have a look on Kerbal Construction Time. In the no, not upgrades. Although I have another 4 upgrades, I'm gonna still go all VAB, I think. Yeah, VAB. Yeah, I want this to build quite fast to get started with. We can also look at unlocking tech fast as well. You'll see these start to consume half-yearly sizes. So once we get more points, and we can get that through more money, we can funnel that into R&D as well. However, the VAB, or at least the VAB, should be quite fast as it is. And I'll leave it for this episode. Next episode, we're going to have to go for larger contracts. Now, has it given us some of those? Yes, it has. So we've got suborbital trajectory and return, uncrewed. Interesting. That gives us another 24 grand. First artificial satellites, that's reaching orbit, essentially. That's sort of not so much... Well, it's tricky in that you don't really have much control. So you're sort of flinging something out there and you don't end up with a very nice orbit. But that's, by the by. And then we've got sending rocket altitudes. So we've got one that says go over 190 kilometers. So we can already make that with the A4. It gives us 4 grand. Difficulty, that also happens to be, you have to have a payload on it. So remember, we got the service module tank. Well, you can use that to put payloads in. And then sending rocket easy is above 50 kilometers now. So we have to reach higher than we did before. But it gives us 400, and then intermediate, of course, a little bit higher still. There is then the X-planes, and you have to have a crew member on board, and then you have to fly the thing. There's not very much reward for that. But crewed sound barrier, you certainly get some decent rewards from. And unfortunately, these do have durations. That's unfortunate. And solar-powered satellite, yeah, that we're not up to that point yet. So lots of satellites now, or lots of missions now, heading up into the upper atmosphere and into orbit, potentially. And that's where we should go next episode, if we don't try the X-planes. We'll see. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you have. Subscribe, share as you normally would. Click on the bell if you want notifications. More importantly than all of that, leave comments for other people who are playing this through, because this is one of those things where people have to learn from each other quite a lot. There is also a Discord channel for Realism Overhaul that you could look at that will help if you're having difficulties. Of course, you can also ask down below in the comments, and if I know the answer, I'll certainly share it with you. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for some more RP1, Realistic Progression 1, release version.